Hello everyone, welcome back to Future Talks conducted by Prayaana. I'm Aishwarrya and I'll be your host for the day. Let's begin the session with a small introduction to Prayaana. Prayaana, a unique employability, entrepreneurship, and innovation ecosystem for women. Prayaana Lab gives wholesome career support services right from career counseling, training, mentoring, and recruitment services under one umbrella. If you're a girl out there in your graduation or post-graduation who's trying to enhance your skills for recruitment, this is a great platform for you. In case you're a professional who's trying to upgrade yourself at your workplace, this is still the right place for you to get enrolled. It's also a great platform if you're trying to come back to your career after a long break. So definitely check us out at www.prayaana.org. If you like what you see, you can join us by registering at www.prayaana.in or download the Prayaana app. It's a community hub where you can interact, network, and share your thoughts and queries with one of similar interest. We also provide you mentorship program and learning module over international and well-acclaimed mentors. So definitely check out our app. This is Prayaana Collective. It's a venture of Prayaana. It is unique in the attribute that it is India's first e-commerce platform that is dedicated for the empowerment of women. If you're a woman entrepreneur out there who's trying to expand your business or customer base and trying to promote your product, our platform is definitely suitable for you. The platform is uniquely designed with an attractive affiliated marketing module where all the customers are given an opportunity for lifetime savings and earnings. So definitely check us out at www.prakul.com. In case if you have any queries during this session, please feel free to post it as a comment in the live chat box below and we'll get back to you at the end of the session. Today's topic for the session is Unleashing the Economy Through Empowering Women by Mr. Krishna Kumar. Sir is the co-founder and CEO of GreenPepper, founded in 2007. It is now a go-to hiring platform for tech companies. He's also the co-founder of JumpFrog, a video production and marketing platform for aspiring companies. A warm welcome to the show, sir, and over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Aishwarya, for this introduction. And this is a very, very important subject which we are talking today. And I'm sure that this is also pretty controversial in many aspects. Why? Because there has always been a great conversation happening around this subject. Sometimes utter silence, because this is a subject which is not very comfortable for many people to discuss because of reasons like they themselves might not be in a position to practice what they're talking about. So here is Prayaana trying to do create a conversation around this topic, which is so relevant. Why? I'll tell you why it is relevant right now, or maybe more relevant now than ever been. So there is a very quiet kind of a revolution happening. So if you ask me what is quiet revolution, revolutions are usually very, very noisy, very big drama kind of stuff, right? So here is a gradual revolution happening, which we are seeing, but at the same time we are missing to see. That is what we call as something like 50% of our society is women. But if you look at Indian economy, what we see is only say like 23 or 24% of women in the total workforce. If you ask me why is it happening, so for example, out of India's 400 million people who are in the workforce, only 23% people are women. If you ask me why this is happening, there has been a big reason, because if you look at last 10 years, it has come down from 28%. So like if you look at 2008 or 2005 for that matter, it was 28%. Now in the next 10 years, it has come down to 23%. It is not just a statistic which we are trying to examine here. What we're trying to do is to see what are the reasons for why this has happened, in spite of the fact that there are a lot of opportunities for women to work remotely as well now, because internet has enabled everyone to work from their own homes or possibly at their own convenience. It's not that the women cannot go out and work, but it has become more convenient for women to work because of the internet remotely. Even then, you only see 24% of women in India's workforce. Comparatively, like we were doing a comparative study with China, So China has got almost 776 million people in the workforce. Indian terms is like 78 crores people working, and India 40 crores people working. There you see 44% of women working, and you see in Philippines you have almost 65% of the women in their total workforce, which is very surprising. That's why you see a lot of Filipino women moving to other countries to work, like for example the Middle East and Singapore and Malaysia, and leaving their families in their own country, maybe their own kids in their own country, to earn money and earn remittances. So close to $1 billion remittances happening in Philippines every month because of this, powerful women. Now, having said that, this is also important. Why we, as a large country, as a country with all the power to enable women to workforce, why we are not able to do that? I think that's what this discussion is all about. So here, first point is even in the. I mean, I was surprised when I read about Cambridge University, which started in 1209. I mean, it's almost 800 years history Cambridge University has got. Until 1868, they actually forbid women from taking admissions to the university. You're talking about a university which is supposedly the most top, universities in the world at that point in time. It, almost forbidden women from entering the university, almost talking about 600 years of history of university. And then only in 1987, that is like some decades back, they allowed this equal opportunity policy for admissions for women. So we are talking about, world's topmost institution doing this. And I also read something recently, a week back, saying that IIM Kozhikode, is the first time in their history they have almost 52% of the seats being applied by women, even though they have almost 60 seats already, kind of considered for women, even if they apply. I mean, it's more like a quota for women. But here, 52% of women have applied to this IIM Kozhikode. So things are changing. So are things really changing, or are things are really hiding behind these beautiful figures like gender diversity hiring? So this is what we're going to do. I mean, to discuss here. So I would say there are three things, according to evolutionary scientists and economists, or even for that matter, people who think deeply about this subject really considers this to be like, one is, of course, the culture. The second is the biology, and third is economy. So let's look at three things to see what is happening here. So on the cultural aspect of thing, you would understand there are really, if you look at the Malayalam movies itself in the last 4 decades, you would see patriarchal kind of towering figures, male figures in the family dominating women, and not allowing women to even express their opinions. Forget about entering workforce. Mostly they were working at home, doing a lot of domestic work, unpaid work, not contributing to the, or not reflecting in the GDP of the country. So you see this in your homes, probably in our families. Sometimes we also see this kind of a signal where constantly this powerful male figures are giving into the families, right? So it used to be in Malayalam, they used to say like, Malayalam parayum, നീ സമ്പാദിച്ചു കൊണ്ടുവരേണ്ട കാര്യമില്ല. So that's a kind of statement, that's a cultural meme which was floating around for the last 3-4 decades. The reason is basically we're a very, very powerful male dominant society, and this society has created a structure in which women needn't join the economic workforce. So this is not just about Kerala, this is about across India. You see this kind of a culture. So this is what we have to beat. Like when we say we, I see this as a teamwork, right? In COVID-19, we realized that every family unit, every individual is now trying to survive financially, survive this crisis which they have not seen before. And the only way to survive is, of course, we have to survive as an individual, like, healthy, we should be really healthy about it. But most important is the financial survival. So this financial survival has become the priority in a country like us, and it is important that whoever contributing to the financial survival will be important partners in our life. For example, when we join a business, what happens is somebody comes to you, you let them in, you give them work, and they become your partner. They become your financial survival partner, because this person is also contributing to your business and trying to create a revenue for you, maybe to create a and build a business for you. So you consider that individual as an economic unit. Of course, it's an emotional human being, but at the same time, is an economic unit. And the importance of being an economic unit is so clear that we have found out that women who are financially independent are the most powerful people. It is not the people who are not financially independent. It's very difficult for a woman to assert herself when it comes to not having financial independence. So it is not just to assert or to do something or dominate the other way. I mean, the question is not about male domination or female domination. It is about creating a coexisting, kind of an environment. It's very important to coexist, right? So when I go to the wildlife sanctuaries, I used to see man-animal conflict boards there. So the forest officers would give us a counseling before we enter the forest area, saying that we have to avoid the man-animal conflict. So this is an interesting phenomenon, which I mean, and I've always asked them, hey, why is that conflict happening? Because we are entering their territory, and whenever we enter a territory, which is known, which is not ours, there is bound to be some kind of conflict, and the animals can be part of it, and you can also be victim of it. So there could be a man-animal conflict. Sometimes we become, we make the animals a victim. So there is a possibility of conflict in that area. So why is it happening? Because we are entering their territory. So here, if you look at a male-dominated society for decades, for centuries together, considering the example of Cambridge University, it is not something which happened in the last 100 years. It has been there always like that, and we see a refined thinking like women should enter workforce. It's a very refined way of thinking. If you look at very crude way of thinking, no, women needn't work, men need to work and women need to do the domestic work. So it's a very crude way of thinking. Now we have reached a level where we as thoughts, our idea of work, our idea of survival has improved over a period of time, and we say the refined way of thinking is that man and woman should coexist, also should recombine their efforts to make things better. So it is not just about making a family, making children, reproducing. It's also about recombining their efforts, their skills, their complementary skills to produce something which is amazing. So here is what we have to see, that there is a big cultural shift happening. The cultural shift is very simple, that women are becoming more financially independent. The second thing is that they're also getting access to social networks. Earlier, it used to be very difficult for somebody, like I'm talking about 10 or 15 years ago, women were finding it very difficult to talk to or exchange ideas, or even access people outside their family networks or social circles. Now it is possible because of the social media. They are exposed to various ideas. They can actually reach out to people, talk to them, exchange ideas, information. So this has never been a possibility 15 years back. Now it is possible. So the internet actually liberated many women across the world. They were like confined to their own social circles for a long period of time. And most of the time what happens is social circles look at you in a very judgmental perspective. Even though we have the closest to the people are the most judgmental, if you look at it. So women also face this big issue of being going through the judgment. So what do you mean by the judgment? The judgment is about that you are capable of doing these kind of things. You may not be in a position to deliver these kind of things. You may not be successful in doing it. You have no experience of doing it. You have less exposure of doing it. Um, you have no family history of doing it. Things like this. These are usual judgmental things which probably someone close to you would have told you. Like, it could be a man, it could be a woman also. Like, you have elderly women in the family who also might tell you that this is not something for you. This is not a cup. This cannot happen, right? They try to tell you that be safe. They try. The message they are trying to give you is that, hey, stay safe. You don't have to work. You don't have to do bigger things. You just stay safe. That's more important. Primary reason for why is it that it's like a survival mechanism for families mostly to protect their women. But it has reached a level where more than protection, it has become a suffocation for many women. It has become opportunity denial for many people, especially women. And also, most importantly, when they go through this and ultimately they get uh, condemned for the fact that they have not achieved anything in their lives. So this is a realization which many women, in the generations before we have faced this. It may include our mothers, it could include our grandmothers, or sometimes in our own generation it would have happened. Here is where we have to really look at working, participating in the workforce as not just as a matter of earning money. It's also a matter of earning dignity, also a matter of earning skills, also a matter of developing ideas, also a matter of contributing your best to the society. So there is different dimensions in which you have to think. So many women, whom even I know, like, think about, I don't work because I don't have to work, and primarily because the employment market is not good enough to pay me. I don't have to work for 15,000 or 20,000 rupees. I don't have to go through that journey of employment. There are many reasons which people say like that. But the point is, to when you start working or when you start participating in the economy through maybe a series of projects, or working with a company, or even working remotely, or even being part of contribution which we can do. It is not just about the money we are earning. Like I said, it's also about the improved dignity, the improved ability to work with different people, improved skills which can actually really help you to go to the next level, right? And also an improved thinking about how the world works. And these are things which will not happen in 1 or 2 months. This will happen over a period of time. And the consequential, the liberation or the ability to work independently and live independently improves. So most of the women suffer because their inability to work you know uh, independently, or live a life independently. So when you start enjoying the life independently, then the whole scenario changes. So this discussion is not just to share with you some broad thoughts. It's also to understand how, as an economy, as an individual, we can improvise the game, because we are living in a very uncertain times, and the financial survival is going to be more and more tougher compared to the last decade. COVID-19 has changed everything for that matter. The way the governments work, the way the financial institutions work, the way our lives are now going on. We need income, we need financial survival. How do we achieve that? The only way to achieve that would be that more and more women participating in the economy. So when I ask participating, what do you mean by participating in it? So participation is not just about getting some salary and start working on it. So most of the times we may not have the opportunity to work on something immediately, because you may not have found out something which is useful. But it's also important to start working, because only when you start building your skill of working with others, even if it is gradually, you're going to take the next step, and when you put together, accumulate it, you will reach a level where you can significantly use your skills to do something important. It could be like when you become important to an organization, they realize that this person can do something. This person has already done some work and has reached a level of knowledge which can be made useful at any point in time. So, how can we reach a level of expertise, skills, knowledge, which would be useful for an organization or for an industry for that matter, and they start accepting your contribution and they start paying you? That's the moment which we have to reach. It's not an easy journey, but it's always a worthwhile journey. Many women I have seen in my life, in my long career of almost 12, 15 years, I've seen um, women taking these steps gradually, but at the same time powerfully to reach that level. So I'm in fact very proud to see many of them around to see how they have taken those steps. Sometimes when they take those initial steps, they were like completely unaware, like what they're getting into. They're getting into a very discomfort, zone. There is no comfort zone in work, in economy. A lot of discomfort, a lot of inconvenience, a lot of threats, a lot of challenges, a lot of sometimes going through emotional violence. So we talk a lot about physical violence, but there's a lot of emotional violence women are facing in this scenario. And going through that and then surviving that dip will make you a powerful person. And that powerful person can actually do a lot of things, not this person, right? So there are two people on both sides of this crisis. When you get into the whole thing, you are sometimes weak, sometimes vulnerable, sometimes thinking, sometimes not sure of what to do, sometimes always being judged by others. So very person who is very vulnerable getting into the game, right? But once you go through that, the crisis, and then you go through that stages of extreme emotional violence, and then you reach on the other side, you have become a person who is worthwhile more than the person who actually got into it. That's what emotionally this game is all about. So I think what you call this is what you call in early history called the rite of passage, where you from a teenage to the adult, when you become a man or become a woman, what happens is you have to prove certain things to tell yourself that you become an adult, right? What do you mean by an adult? An adult is a person who can actually take decisions for himself. The reason why we are giving voting rights to adults, the reason why we are giving the right to choose your partner to an adult, the reason is it is important that an adult can take a decision on it. But here if you look at women, their decisions are taken by other people. Their decisions are influenced by other people. Their decisions are forced by family members who are supposedly very very caring people, who are very possessive, who are like who really cares for you. That's the tag in which they come in, right? When accepting all that, the point is, women, if they start taking decisions on their own, there will be a bit of imbalance in families. There will be disruption. There will be a new set of habits coming in. Imagine, I've seen when women start working, what happens is the whole routine changes, right? Because all the while women were staying at home, were supporting the family, were doing everything, but the moment they start working, the whole habits change, the routine change. So this is what they're resisting. So most of the family members, what they do is they're resisting that change, not the fact that the women are working. They're resisting those convenience, they're resisting those inconveniences, they're resisting those a lack of comfort zone when they start working, right? So that is where women have a bigger role to play, because in every game, if you look at even if it is management or even if it is business, if you want to achieve something, right, if you want to achieve something, what we have to do is to let people with us know that we are getting into something important and take them into the confidence. So you may be asking me, hey, why should I take them into confidence? They should be knowing it by themselves. But let me ask you this: do you want a conflict? If you want a conflict, you can go and disrupt everything, right? But if you really want to do this, prove this first and make and slowly and gradually make them understand what you are achieving step by step. That is going to be a more refined, more sophisticated game. So what I've seen is two ways of looking at the same problem. Okay, so somebody starting to work, starting a woman starting to work means they need independent, laptop or internet connection. They need to sometimes go out. Now it is not possible, but sometimes you have to get into a new routine, and you start interacting with new set of people, right? So work is not alone, right? Work is with a set of people. So when you start interacting with a new set of people, these people become part of your daily life, and that's what most of the family members don't really accept. They say, hey, this person was all to me, giving all the attention to me, but this person has now started giving attention to a lot of other people, right? The attention in the sense, like, giving attention in terms of work, in terms of progressing at work. These are the cultural inhibitions, or I would say challenges, which we have in our own family, in our own domestic settings. That is one. The biology factors. And I'm talking about culture for some time. Let me talk about biology. You look at most of, except the millennials, most of us, like during our who are in the 30s right now, would realize that the most important thing which the society wants us to be part of is like be part of a family structure, right? That's why we have the institution called the marriage, and of course followed by child rearing, and then you have to be with the family and protect the family to keep it as a single unit, and all those expectations have been built like that. So when we live with these expectations, you miss out a lot of things, because you miss out on what you really are, because you have been a high potential person. You realize that by yourself, but you're not able to try to communicate to others. They would not allow you to do that, because there is always something called the conflict of ego in the family settings, especially when there are women in the game. So a father figure, might not really appreciate the fact that his daughter is taking extremely new decisions without his information or consent. He might be happy later, but he will be surprised. I'm sure he will be questioning those decisions all the time. And then you see the husband figure in the life, and even the husband figure will also try to control the spouse, to see how much I can influence this person to make things happen in my own way. So, and then you have the rest of other female members in the family, like your mother, mother-in-law, sister-in-law, sister, or your friends. All these people see you and look at you, in their own perspectives, right? So this is what is the biggest challenge of getting into a workforce, for any middle class person in India right now. So these conversations around people who you know um, are seriously looking at to enter the workforce, start doing something new, get into freelance projects, uh, do a business, or even start something on your own, or even for that matter, having a serious partnership, a business partnership with your own husband, or your family members. And I'm taking it seriously. It's not free work. It's like serious equity partnership with your family. So that's important. So how do you reach that level? So if you have thought, it depends on each person, right? Each person has got a very different way of looking at it. Some people will manage these tough, people in their own way. Some people are unable to do that in spite of the fact that they're really good at what they're doing. So here is where there is a new thinking which is required even for men. So this empowering women is not happening just because men allow women to work. That's not the idea of this discussion. Is to see how culturally we can shift, and ask fundamental questions about ourselves. What do we really want? What motivates us? What inspires us to do? And who are the examples whom we see in our daily life, in social life? If you've noticed, the best way to possibly enter an economic participation to the workforce is to have a friend who is to have a set of friends possibly, or maybe a social circle who are entrepreneurs, who are like working. Gradually, a woman who is not even working or not doing anything in terms of the business would start identifying herself with others, right? Hey, if she can do it, I can also do it, right? If she can be bold, I think I also have that boldness in me, which is like not awakened for a long time, which I should awaken myself. So thought process is to have a set of people, environment, create an environment, right? It is very, very difficult actually to do something with your own willpower, because willpower is like very, very, it requires recharge all the time. So it's like motivation. You can't be motivated all the time. So the best way is to create an environment of friends, an environment of social circle who have women in it, who are extremely ambitious, who are aspiring, who are business people, who do their own work pretty seriously, professionally. And you see that, and you see that daily. And sometimes you might feel that I'm not in the right group, or no, I'm not working, these guys are working, they have all, I mean, I have all the time, I mean, they don't have. These kind of things can happen. But if you get into that environment, that is the biggest thing which you can do. And it may take, say, it's like 3 to 6 months for you to gradually understand how they work, what they do, and how they do stuff, how they take decisions, how they manage their people. You see it through learning. I mean, you can learn through actually seeing what's happening in these people's life. If especially if they're friends, you can relate to them faster. So this is not a formula at this point in time, but I've seen this working pretty well for people who are aspiring to work. So you have to be in the group of people, be it entrepreneurs, be it employees, be it somebody who is doing an initiative of their own, be it somebody who is doing a social project. That's fine, because they're doing something and creating an impact. So that is the practical perspective of getting into workforce and how we can contribute, um, most importantly, to ourselves, because contributing to ourselves is like an investment in itself. I've always felt that the way we solve problems every day, at work, in the business, is not a waste, because each problem is a unique challenge. It is posing a new challenge to us, and we are using our resources, our networks, and our ability and our skill and resilience to solve that problem. And that becomes an asset to us, because we have survived that problem and we have improved a skill. It could be a negotiation skill, it could be communication, it could be interpersonal skill, it could be sales skill, it could be some kind of cognitive skill which we have developed because we did that activity repeatedly. Sometimes new activities come, and over a period of time, like 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, you have become a refined individual, in all the sense. Right? That is what we are investing into ourselves. So I think women have the extreme capability, to go through that kind of emotional, um, emotionally violent situations. They have been gifted by the nature to do that, and I think that's the. I mean, if you look at, they are not at all unlike men. They are not very impulsive. They always take calculated, risks. The way, if you look at, there are women board members, the companies are even more trusted, for the fact that the companies may not get into some gambling kind of deals, because women always think, in terms of safety, in terms of survival, in terms of protecting stuff. So there is a nurturing attitude and nurturing mindset for women, which would be extremely useful at this point in time, especially being in the HR consulting space. I've seen a lot of women HR leaders who are extremely capable, who can handle very tough conversations with people. Unlike men who become, like a volcano, and they create a lot of ruckus around, and it may even damage the whole thing. But women have been patient enough to go through that situation and do it. So you see, genetically, also there's a fundamental difference between a man and a woman, because a man and a chimpanzee will have a lot of similarities than a man and a woman. So that's why I said there is a lot of coexistence required, um, in this world, especially when we are facing an unprecedented crisis like COVID-19. And of course, the world is going to be very, very dynamic, volatile, very ambiguous during this time. So it's important to see like double income families or women working, improving their skills, learning new stuff, because a lot of skills which now women can invest in could be done through online, so they don't have to go to the college or university, spend a lot of time and money on that. You can actually get into a lot of courses online and start reskilling yourself. You have a computer, you have a high bandwidth internet connection, you are actually ready for the game. And even then, many of us or many of women are not still entering the workforce because of the cultural problems. And I think we have to look at it in a very, very patient perspective. Here, the problem is whenever there's a problem, we try to create an emotional zone around it, because when you get emotional, you cannot take decisions, right? So even though we know that we are suppressed, even though we know that we are dominated by someone else, it's important to see the problem as it is, be realistic, and see how you can change the situation, not drastically, not rapidly, but at the same time, gradually. And um, it requires a subtle approach, and that can save a lot of your time, a lot of your um, energy, if you look at the problem in a subtle, a patient, at the same time, a gradually improving, um, you know, uh, kind of a pattern. So we have to gradually improve. You can't take a decision like a volcano. You have to take a decision like slowly, 1, 2, 3, and then over a period of time, you get into serious skill building, using your skills, refining your skills, and getting into the workforce. And that is going to be a long-term investment. I'm not saying that you need to start working today and stop working in 3 months. No, that's not the idea. It is just get into the workforce gradually. At the same time, with assertiveness, it needn't be like 8 hours of work. It can be 1 hour, 2 hours of work. It's gradually building on the idea of economically contributing to the whole thing. And that'll be a really great experience, I'm sure. So Prayaana Collective, I know, and I've been observing so many activities which they're doing, especially giving empowering ideas to women. And I used to, after a couple of videos which we did, I mean, there will be a lot of interest from people who are highly, they've been working, there are different kind of women now in society, like people who have been working for say like 10 years or 5 years, and then they left the job because they had to move along with their husband or children, and then they were not able to rejoin the workforce. That's a huge segment of Indian women who are highly qualified, who have worked in some really good companies but not able to join the workforce again, because of various reasons. So the reason is primarily, sometimes they don't get much time because otherwise they are already, into something. So when you say into something, is most of the work is like unpaid, but it's okay. But if you're building the skill, that's the key thing, right? If you're building the skill and also trying to build a work life for a long-term life, the life is going to be long-term. So if you look at India, women have got an average lifespan of 76 and men has got 74. So you have a long, long life to live. And if you can build your own independent way of earning money, that's going to be the best skill which you're building. So with this, we will have some questions, because this is just an overall context I want to give you, considering the recent discussions happening on this. Um, I must say that we are living in the best times when it comes to treating women. Though we see a lot of negative news around, if you open social media, you would see uh, you know violence against women and all sorts of abuse, social media abuse against women and everything. But in spite of all that, India right now has the best legal system when it comes to protecting a woman, and women's words are trusted more than ever. In front of the judiciary, if a woman says that there is a problem, they give more years to them. And that has happened in the last 5 years, and that's been a great uh, value add for many women to open up and to be assertive and be independent in dealing with their own lives. So let's go for the questions, and then thanks Aishwarya, thanks CV.
So we have a question. So as you told, you mentioned about the gender norms affecting the women's growth. What can we do to change it? Especially, how do we bring a change in the mindset of men?
Yeah, The question about gender norms is not a thing which happened very recently. It has been part of the myth, the stories, the childhood, whatever we read. For example, you look at the movies we watch every day, all the stories of stories which we read every day. Everywhere you see, most of the stuff done by men, right? And that has created, the reason is like, why only 24% of the women work in India? Because the rest of the people believe that only men can do it possibly, or sometimes they suppressed, right? So there is a lack of belief even in women, about themselves, which has been created over a period of time. So a lot of women who are highly capable. I mean, I've seen many people who lack self-esteem because they have been doing a lot of domestic stuff. I mean, it's not that we can't do domestic stuff. We are domestic animals. We have to do a lot of domestic stuff. The point is to have the self-esteem to work on important things. And how do we build that? It is only through examples. The reason I told you why we should have friends who are like empowered. Why should we have friends who are entrepreneurs? Why should we have friends who are employees? Women must actually seek more professional acquaintances, not just social and personal, friends and acquaintances. How much time you spend with your professional acquaintances vis-a-vis how much time you spend with the social acquaintances will determine the way you look at, your own skills, right? How much time you try to, do a course, how much time you try to discuss business with your husband, how much time you spend time to discuss, things happening in the economy with your friend, right? Very rarely, right? The reason is such discussions are always kept outside the parlance of our conversations, to see that it is more friendly and stuff like that. But if you look at men, they discuss everything. They discuss economy, they discuss business. So the way in which how women can enter the workforce also should be in the way they get into the structure of working with similar like-minded people who are aspiring and ambitious. So the gender norms are very difficult to break, primarily because it has been gone into our mind, into our myth, into our narratives during not just a few years, it's a long period of time. So the reason. So, but I think now what is happening is, you look at, you open your Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, or LinkedIn, you see successful, women demonstrating their, credentials, which is giving an example of, how it can be or how it could be, right? So there is a possibility. And many people say, hey, these are exceptions, these are not like all the time it happens. There is something called the glass ceiling syndrome. I mean, the word itself is invented to see that the women cannot grow up to a point in time. And I'm sure that if you look at statistically, the story is very different. Only 7% of the world's best leaders, I mean, across the world, are women leaders. If you look at the boardrooms in America, I mean, if you have very less people who are like women. uh, it could be also about what women really want. Do they really want to get into such kind of things, or would they really want to have their own economic units? It's about their ambition. If you look at Indian banks, they have actually announced a lot of women friendly credit schemes, which can actually help somebody with an idea, or somebody with a business plan, to just start a business without even a collateral security. So credit to women have improved a lot. If you look at Indian banks in the last 3-4 years, it has improved a lot. If you look at jobs, I mean, many organizations are now looking at diversity hiring, at least for the namesake. I mean, sometimes it's not the namesake, it happens if the skills required for the, by the company uh, are there with women, right? So it is also created. If you look at technology, it's difficult to get women because most of the technology is still dominated by men, primarily because of skills, lack of skills. Because technology requires constant updation of skills, and sometimes the women would have missed out or had career breaks. So to re-enter the workforce, they have to have new skills coming up. So there are practical problems in, in solving this, but at the same time, there are possibilities also.
Okay, sir. So we have another question from Priya. She says that sometimes it gets very hard to change the status quo. No matter how hard we try, the people around us are not that welcoming, which may result in lessening the confidence and motivation that drives us. How do we deal with?
Yeah. So status quo has been a problem not just for women. It has been always a problem with our psychological, stability. Now, what do you mean by status quo? Status quo is the psychological stability which we want when we do stuff. Whenever we do a new thing, imagine tomorrow you are starting a new business. You are actually breaking the status quo, and to reach that level of taking that decision to start a business, it would have taken 3 4 months. You would have been thinking and talking to people. You have been having sleepless nights before you take the decision. So to arrive at that decision is a very important journey. And what is happening right now is with all these digital distractions, the decision making is going wrong all the time, because decision making requires a lot of channelization of our energy, our mental energy, into the problem, to see the various sides of the decision and see how it will help me intuitively, because intuition is the thing which most of the people use for decision making, intuitively, right? And that intuition will tell you not now, right? Most of the time it will say not now, or we'll do it later, because you don't know that what you're getting into, right? So lack of information is something which people really are worried about. And basically we all human beings, really don't like ambiguity. We want fixed things. We want things to happen as we want. Imagine at the end of the month, you don't know whether you have salary or not. Immediately an employee is upset, right? Similarly, as such a small dose of ambiguity is something which we can survive. So status quo, breaking a status quo is that I am fine now. Okay, I am fine now, but I want to be better, right? But if I want to be better, I have to move out of this fine situation. So first of all, you're not ready to get out of this fine situation. You want to be better, but you don't want to get out of this fine situation, right? This is what is happening to most of the people trying to take a decision to break the status quo. And this status quo is something which will make you moderate. It will make you moderately successful, moderately happy. It's about all about moderation. It will help you to become extremely successful, extremely happy, or extremely productive, contributing to things. So this comfort zone, this is not a comfort zone. I would call it as like a comfort pit, because comfort zone is a better place, right? Comfort pit where you're not able to come out of that comfort pit and do things. So it's a big decision. I would say anyone trying to do something new has to take break from all the digital things, because digital things will keep giving you a lot of wrong signals, a lot of wrong information, a lot of wrong directions, or sometimes anxieties which is not required at all. So too much of information can create a lot of anxiety. Now what's happening right now is anybody wants to take a decision can go on visiting websites and downloading presentations, reading reports, and go on doing that for many months together without taking a decision. So it's not the information which is a problem. It's about the ability to take the decision without distractions and move out of the status quo. So I agree with you that somebody has asked this question, and I agree with you that it is a tough thing to do. And to realize that it is a tough thing to do is the first thing which we should do before getting into that. Because if you feel that is easy, then we are wrong, because it's not easy. And it will take sometimes 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. But when you reach there, when you arrive at that decision, things are going to be different. And I wish you all the best for that. Yeah.
So there's one more question. So what do you think that women face a challenge while starting up their own business, especially startups?
Yeah. So now, first of all, we don't have to call it women startup or kind of thing. It's a startup. Okay, it's very important to show gender neutrality at also the same point in time to work on ideas. Most of the women, try to take advantage of the fact that they're women. I mean, it might work sometimes, but sometimes it may not work well. It's important to say we have a startup. It's not a women startup. It's a startup, right? So I don't call women leaders. We have leaders, and some of them are women, right? So here the question is to show the gender neutrality by ourselves, and assert our position. So if we have to start with an idea, and definitely I'm sure that a women startup gets maybe 10 times more visibility than a um, startup done by some men, definitely. Because why? Because women startups are rare things, so news value goes to all those rare things, right? And also, as a matter of fact, that most of the media is now trying to promote women centric startups because of the fact that they want to promote some values, gender neutral values based on that. But that's not the idea. As a woman, I think it's important to find out an idea which really works for you, which suits your lifestyle, which also suits your personality. Not all the businesses suits your personality, right? So it's important to do an assessment about yourself. So like CV is a psychometric assessment expert, and you should talk to people like that and say, um, and ask them, hey, what, this is what I am really, and I want to know what really can help me to achieve my goals, my dreams. And that can be done only by understanding yourself. So that's why self-assessment is a key thing. So opportunities will come in different forms and shapes, right? But not all opportunities might be suitable to you as a person, right? So to assess that and to get into it is important. Otherwise, there's going to be a conflict between the opportunity and you as a person, right? There's always going to be conflict on that. So we don't want conflict. We want comfort in with that decision. So women startups, like you said, are startups in itself, um, who have to go ahead and look at the world in a perspective which is very confident, very assertive, and at the same time coming up with some real world solutions. Most of the startups get into the area to leverage on the media, leverage on networks, leverage on their existing connections. If you ask me, it will work for some time. It will work for some time, like 3 4 months or 6 months or 1 year. It may work like that. But if you leverage on yourself, if you leverage on innovation, if you leverage on the real problems which the customers face and try to solve that, that has got a much better future than by tagging yourself as a women startup. And that's what my um, feedback is all about.
Okay, sir. So there's one more question. So when you find there is a difference in mentality among different states in India when it comes to hierarchical notions, which state do you think is more liberal in this?
Which state is?
More liberal in this?
No, India, if you look at each state has got its own cultural things, and even communities, even religions have very different ways of treating women, be it liberal, be it right wing. I mean, there is no difference when it comes to women. Like there was a recent report, when it comes to women, India and China are all the same because you have so many, I mean, the only thing which is India and China is all the same is like in the way they treat their women. So having said that, many states in India, like we have very bad examples coming from different states about the way in which even the birth is denied to women, right? The birth, even at the birth stage, you are denied to enter this world. Like you have the, baby girls killing. And when you go to the high school, you have areas where they don't allow their girl children to go to the high school. They get them married away at the age of 16 and sometimes 18. It's all illegal to do that at the age of 16. And then what happens is when you enter the adulthood, also you are trying to control the women in your society in all the ways. Like it could be not going to work or giving them domestic work or suppressing them emotionally. So many such incidents have created, a kind of thinking in even the sophisticated people. So there are like there's some 35 to 40 crores people who are in the segment of middle class, and rest of India is all about lower middle class and the poor people. Almost 400 million poor people in India, and then you have the 400 million middle class people in India, and in between you have the lower middle class kind of people. You see this, and you find that the thinking has gone so deep to how to treat the women. Even your films, they treat the women very very superficially. Sometimes you celebrate women, but it is just to showcase that you treat your women better. But in real case, that's not the case. So I would say, and interestingly, in China and India, there are 7 crore extra men, okay, than women. So that actually men outbeat women in terms of the number. So there are 7 crore men who may not be able to even, and out of which 80% are below 20 now. So in the next 10 to 15 years, men will not get women. I mean, so that there is a huge um, um, ratio divide between men and women growing in India and China, almost 7 crore. It's a huge number, and the repercussions are going to be huge, because then men are extra. I mean, a lot, and then women have and you need a balance in society, be it social or be it biological or be it cultural. You need a balance, right? And that's going to be missing. And I'm sure that this all can help more and more women to come into active workspace.
Yes, sir. So, sir, your sister is also a businesswoman. What difference was there in your family and upbringing which helped you both entering into a business world, which is quite rare in Indian families?
All right. So, in fact, for that matter, I think she was assertive from her childhood, in spite of the fact that there were a lot of very dominating male family members in the society, in our family. But it depends on the personality, right? Every individual has a personality which can actually help them sometimes. Sometimes it might affect them also. But here in my sister's case, she was an assertive individual even from her childhood, and she found her path. Moving away from a small town to a large city like Bangalore, and without anybody's help. Usually, at that age, 90, I mean, 2021, women don't move to big cities at that stage. I'm talking about 12, 13 years ago. And she moved to Bangalore and tried to find a space for herself in a company, and started working there, got married, and 4 or 5 years she was there. So the idea is, uh, some individuals, make decisions for themselves in spite of the fact that you don't get much of encouragement. So I think that's a good example, because you don't need someone's validation, you don't need someone's um, approval, you don't need someone's okay or thumbs up and all to take a decision. It's up to you, because you are leading a life independently for yourself, though it is connected to other people in the society. Just like we want them to take their own decisions, they should allow ourselves to take our own decisions. So that's the thought process in which she has been operating, and I think that operation has been quite successful when it comes to doing it. Yeah.
So, sir, we have one more question, sir, from Priya. She says that the burden of responsibilities are heavier than the dreams for the career. How do we balance by keeping in mind that home and career are both important?
Yeah. So first of all, the expectations are not designed based on our will, right? So somebody who is having some expectations. For example, you join a company. What do they give you? They give you a job description. That job description is expectation which you must fulfill, right? It's a very well defined document which talks about the expectations by the company for you, right? There is no well defined document in the society nor in the family about the expectation they have on us. They want to control, they don't want to empower, right? So there is a big situation in management. In management we call it, either you control and control every aspect of someone, micromanage someone, give them always tips, do like that, do like this specifically, and all those things. Those kind of things only will create resentment, only will create limited people. Like you end up creating very limited kind of people. But empowerment actually unlocks possibilities, right? So but empowerment is about risk taking, right? If a father is taking a decision to let her daughter go to another place which she has never been to, it's a risk taking which your father does. Of course father loves his daughter, but it's also a risk taking by empowering the woman, and but that unlocks possibilities. So I have a habit of learning how people moved up in their careers, going through their LinkedIn profiles, just to see how each time they've taken decisions to go up, and what did they do? How did they add up to the whole thing? I've been keen observer of that, and I've realized that people who have been in the small villages, small towns, have 5x more aspiration, more ambition, more willpower to do things than possibly people who have been in the urban kind of environment. I mean, they're primarily for the reason that the numbers might be less from small villages and small towns, but if they have taken a decision, they've gone far ahead of the game. So I think everyone has that opportunity, if they define what others expect from us. If others have expectations, we also should be in a position to um, have expectations from them. What are the expectations which we have from them? Our expectations from them is that we need support. We don't need validation. We need support, right? So it's very difficult to have a conversation like that in a Indian or a Kerala family. Very difficult, because the moment you start discussing this, there are a lot of discomfort in the dining room. You see, what happened? Are you okay? Are you emotionally fine? Are you talking about mental depression? All now, any such decision will be like left to depression or emotional counseling. That's not the whole thing. So I think capable people are always restless, and they will finally find some kind of channel to, you know, route that restlessness to interesting activities, projects, business, could be anything. It's about channelizing the energy.
Yes, sir. So thank you so much, sir. It was really wonderful. It was a really thought-provoking session today. With that, we come to an end of today's session.
Thank you.
Do share your feedbacks in our YouTube channel as a comment, and we'll get back to you very soon. For advertisement and sponsorship, mail us at joinprayaana@gmail.com. Tomorrow's session is on the topic Your Guidance to Canadian PR by Ms. Devi Leena. And this is the schedule for the upcoming week. On Wednesday, we have a session on managing work-life balance by Ms. Andrea. And on Thursday, we have a special session called Startup Saga. It's our platinum episode by 3 young entrepreneurs, Ms. Anaga and Sarumadi and Harsha. And on Friday, we have a session on COVID and health insurance and a story untold. And on Saturday, we have a session on the topic, how to crack an interview. Thank you so much for watching. Do subscribe our channel, and if you like the video, share it with your friends. And thank you so much for watching.